All right, some of you may be getting to the point where you're feeling like you're finished with your portrait painting. And that's great, but I want you to keep painting because that's the only way you get better at painting. So I'm going to talk to you today about some options for you to use in your sketchbook. So I can take my sketchbook and I can use this reference image in a couple of different ways. Maybe some of you are feeling a little frustrated with how your portrait turned out, and that's sort of normal because learning to paint takes time, and it's more about the process of learning how to paint. And you sort of have to embrace that idea that it's a process and that we just make painting sort of as an after effect. So some of you might want to take your reference image and your sketchbook, and you maybe want to try some portion of your portrait again. So you can see that my person's face fits on here fairly well. So I would cut her hand off. You know, maybe that was part of what I didn't have a fun time painting anyway. And I could take this and I can transfer this into my sketchbook and I can repaint. Maybe I want to try a different color. Maybe I just want to try parts again. Maybe you want to trade reference images with somebody who's sitting at your table with you and try painting a different person's face in your sketchbook. But I really recommend that you can keep painting on a portrait. So one option is to just transfer your portrait into your sketchbook. You know, you can go sideways if you want to get more of it in, or up and down. Another philosophy is that you can kind of play with this a little bit. Maybe you painted your portrait using green, right? It's a really unrealistic color. And in your sketchbook, maybe you want to try making realistic skin tone. So realistic skin tone, if I'm going to make realistic skin tone, comes from combinations of complementary colors. So red and green will make a really nice brown that you can use to make a portrait. So do the yellow and the blue. And if you make a purple using your cool red and cool blue and add yellow, that also makes a really nice skin tone. So those combinations of complementary colors will all make different ranges of skin tones that you can use to experiment in your sketchbook with realistic skin color. So that's another option for you. Another thing that you can do too in your sketchbook is just sort of play around. Maybe you want to make something that's not so realistic. So I could take this reference image and transfer this top part of her face and her eyes, and then slide my reference photo so that I draw her eye again, slide my reference photo so I draw her eye again, and like pivoting around this one single eyeball. And all of a sudden my face would have like a series of eyeballs. And then I could go ahead and transfer the rest of the face. So I can experiment with how do I make artwork now that's maybe not as realistic in my sketchbook using my same reference photo. As you're painting some too, maybe you decide you're going to paint a little bit and you collage some of this down, cutting apart your reference photo. That would also work. But I would encourage you to kind of play with your reference photo and this idea of portrait artwork in your sketchbook if you have completed your portrait painting.